Hey bitches, it's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, car, and a podcast.
Buckle up.
Buckle the fuck up.
Buckle up.
Better fucking buckle up.
Dang, bro. Yeah, then I was reserved for U of A, and yeah.
Reserve? How does that work?
So for U of A at that time, this is like 2011.
Okay.
We only got like the only way that you could get on the team is if you were scouted. I wasn't that good to be scouted, but yeah, we went and I went over there and I'd practice and I kept hounding the coach and I was just like, hey man, like I want to be on this. He's like, you have to be scouted, right? I was like, cool. You still join your practices, right? He's like, yeah, I guess you could. Does it make you on the team? And I was like, cool. So I just kept joining practice, and then eventually he's like, all right.
Is that like the Rudy way in? You just
dude,
walk on and cross your fingers?
Yep. I mean, why not? If it's not illegal, right? And
which school was that again?
U of A.
U of A. Okay, that's Tucson, right? I get like the flag, ASU, Tucson, like the U of A. I get them all mixed up. So.
Oh, that's fine. Because there's a U of A out here too, but
out here.
Yeah, they have a satellite school out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like ASU's got like that eastern campus, and I don't. Is it like really specific now? It's like avionics, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a very specific program that you have to go for. Like, it's like if you're not, then you're
stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh man,
awesome, man. Well, I'm really glad to be here, dude. Really glad to be on the podcast. I hear a lot of good stuff all the time, so...
That's very kind, because I don't hear anything. People, like, generally speaking...
Oh, I mean, like, listening to some of the reviews you do for, like, movies and shit like that, and so, too, like...
I appreciate that. I feel like the movie thing is just more geekery for me, but I would like for it to, like... I don't know, be impactful, or just... to give you... I think, and I've said it a few times on that show, like... I might be... misanalyzing the whole thing, but it feels to me that with like streaming services and with like home theater systems just getting so crazy and 60, 70, 80 inch TVs and these really nice like Dolby in-house things that I think people are just staying home or just waiting for the movie to hit Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and I can't help but think that means movie theaters are going to go away. And on one hand, fine, because we have a similar experience in our own home. But on the other hand, I think what we're forgetting is that cinema is like a group experience. At least it used to be. Yes. And I wonder how long it would take for us to just be sitting in our homes and just be flipping through, Netflix for an hour and a half to even just pick something to watch before we realize that we're missing something in it. And then to analyze that to the point that it's like, oh yeah, I don't... when's the last time I was in a room with 50 like-minded people watching something?
Right. It's like, why have sex with your wife when you can masturbate? It's kind of like that, right?
I feel like you just made the best argument for why internet porn's not a good idea. That doesn't mean that I'm not a consumer. It just means
from what I've heard. My sources say that. No, dude, but it's so funny because I was literally, I got called a radical, a crazy person for even bringing this idea up, right? So I was at work and I was talking with a few other guys, and because we always, like, in the smoker section, I don't smoke anymore, but I go out there to, because we just have the craziest fucking conversations. And we go out there, and that was the one thing that I said, and it's so funny you say that. I said, I love the movies. That is one of my favorite things to do, if not my favorite thing to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And just that experience, but it's kind of like a weird dichotomy because I also don't like people. I don't like the little things people do in movies, like when they talk or they crunch too loud or they breathe or like exist. Like
my biggest movie
You know?
theater fail of all time wasn't too long ago. It was in A Quiet Place, and
Oh
I
my
heard
God.
about it, but like I didn't really know what the experience was gonna be like. And I think I brought like M&Ms or just something crinkly wrapper. And the movie starts, and I haven't opened my candy like an idiot, and it's so quiet, and I'm just like,
it's like 5 fucking words that whole movie.
it takes me 5 minutes to open the bag just so I don't like, make people mad.
Everyone's looking at you like, who's this fucking asshole that opening his M&M's in like the quietest movie?
Sorry,
since
didn't know
fucking-
John Krasinski was the next
Yeah,
Spielberg.
yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude, you're like watching a fucking silent film pretty much, and then you have the audacity to cause disruption.
Be the idiot that,
Yeah.
And the trailer for the second one, like,
Oh, dude.
you wouldn't think they could one up it, but maybe just
Maybe.
putting Cillian Murphy in any movie is the way
Maybe.
to like one up it.
I mean, maybe, and the thing is like, that was another thing we talked about is, so back to the first thing, sorry.
Yes.
So first thing is I said that movie theaters, while I love them, they are my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, and I have to come to that reality that in 5 to 10 years, I think they're gone. Because Blockbuster was
That's
cool at one
soon.
point too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Blockbuster was cool, and
Yeah.
then it fucking went away within like 5 years. Like once Netflix started sending
Yeah.
shit out within like a 5-year span, they were like reduced to like 30% of their stores.
Yeah.
Like
Bummer.
it's not inconceivable.
Mhm.
You know, 5 years is a long fucking time.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
true.
so I told them in 5 to 10 years, I think there's going to be either none or it's going to be more of like a novelty type thing.
Yeah, where it'll be like Amazon or
Yeah.
Netflix or Disney or something will buy some of the more high-end
Right.
theaters,
And then
and
only
you'll
play
just
their
go see
shit.
their stuff. Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Which would make sense too, but then again, it's like, why do that when you can do it at home? And,
Yes.
And I've always wanted a home theater too for that
Now
reason.
that you mention it, I wonder if they, like, instead of, charging admission, doing it that way where they buy up, high-end theaters and stuff, like, there's an advanced membership that just gives you access to where I could either watch it at home or I could just go clock
Yeah.
into the theater and do it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And not only that, but like, how soon before fucking Netflix buys Universal? Or Netflix, or
Don't you kind of hope they do? Because
I really
Disney's
do.
too far ahead. They're
I really
so
do.
out in front of the pack. How's
Yeah.
Amazon or Netflix going to catch up? Like Amazon's got everything else, so
Right.
who cares?
If
Like,
they got
it's just-
Universal, I mean, that would be huge because
Yeah.
that's a huge, especially moving
Mhm.
forward. Like, Netflix puts out some really good shit. Like, honestly,
Yes.
like, they didn't at first. And, like, I watch a lot of streaming services. I watch Hulu, Amazon Prime, I watch, like, Vudu, like, all these other, the Tubi, right? Like, all these, like, little fucking things. And you know what, Netflix definitely is ahead of the pack when it comes to putting out good original content.
Mm.
Like Black Mirror, even though they ended
Heard
up
it's great.
buying
I haven't
that.
watched it yet.
Dude, it's like modern day Twilight Zone, and like people shy away because the first episode is like garbage, but it really is. But literally every episode after that is like the Twilight Zone. Like you remember watching.
And then
the
it's like
Twilight
an
Zone.
anthology. They're not connected. You don't have to see one to enjoy the next. Is that how
Oh,
it
yeah.
works? Okay.
Yeah, and they're literally strung together by a song that plays in the background.
That's so
It's fucking nuts. And the cool part about that is that, like, for the people that don't have time to follow a fucking series, like, I've still never seen Game of Thrones.
Me neither. Well, the first episode.
Jesus Christ, dude. Like, that is just, I feel like I'm too far gone. I have to wait maybe a year
Yeah.
or so to have enough time. But, like, Black Mirror, I could watch one episode,
Mhm.
and I don't have to worry about anything else. After that episode, I'm done. It's like, and they're like an hour long, so it's like watching a movie.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Hmm.
And there's a specific episode you have to watch because it literally like lubed up and fucked my mind, dude. Like fucking bareback, dude.
Bareback. Okay.
It was called so the episode was called White Christmas.
Oh, White Christmas. Okay.
And it has John Hamm in it, which I mean it's John Hamm.
He's adorable. I'm still trying to get through Mad Men. Like it's
He's
just
great.
working my way
He's
through
so
it.
charming. He's like Brad Pitt, you know what I mean? Brad Pitt is not he's a good actor. I don't think he's a splendid actor. Like I don't think he changed everything.
Really?
No, I think he's very good. I don't think. Okay, let me rephrase.
I just want to walk
Let
through
me
his roles now.
rephrase.
Be like, let's see.
Let me rephrase. I don't think. Maybe I underplayed that. I don't think he's legendary in my opinion.
Really?
Correct. But
Just 'cause he didn't,
I do
like-
think he's right at the cusp.
He didn't like Leonardo DiCaprio, What's Eating Gilbert Grape You? Where it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do everything, Brad. Like,
That's
you
what I
can't do
mean.
this
Like you
stuff.
can't, yeah. And I think I like my actors to be. So, for example, somebody I think that at the end of their career will be there is Eddie Redmayne.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just went back. Who was I? Someone sat me down and had me watch The Danish Girl. Good
Fucking
Lord.
Fucking it. And then to turn around and
Heartbreaking.
and to do that, and to do The Theory of Everything.
Yeah.
And to do Aeronauts.
That scene at the end where he's up on stage and they do that thing where the girl drops the pen and you're like,
dude,
how? How did you do that?
Yeah.
And it gives you
You're
all
just
the behind the
imagining
scenes you need, where you're just like, if I play that in reverse, that's how he got in character.
Yeah.
Like, he had to, if you imagine sitting in a chair and focusing on just making all of your limbs like dead. That's acting.
And then it fucking
That's
got me.
insane.
It made me cry at the end when he's like, look at what we made. You know, talk about our kids, and then they go backwards. And I fucking
And that's
lost.
such a
I
weird,
lost
and
it.
I mean, this sort of applies to your life in a strange way. I think that's such an interesting treatise on relationships. That he wasn't sitting with a woman who had broken his heart and who he had all this resentment with. He was with a friend because they stayed close, and he looked out and he's like, look what we made. It had nothing to do with like what we did to each other. It's what we did together. Such a forward thinking. That's science, I think. Just a forward thinking.
Science. It's no, dude, and it's so funny you fucking say that because it does relate. You know, me and the mother of my kids are the very, very same way. You know, it didn't end up working out that way, but we were mature enough. The difference between us is we were mature enough to separate before things got ugly and before we hated each other, which I feel like nowadays the pressure of being in a relationship and staying together is causing people to stay past their welcome.
Monogamy's fucking shit up, man.
It is, but you know, people are staying past their welcome because they have to, or they're going to be looked at as giving up, or you're throwing things away, and it's such a bullshit thing. Like, if things aren't working out, like, think about a car. If putting a bunch of money into a car that's fucked up is going to be the exact same amount of money you're going to put in to get a brand new car.
You can't keep that Honda Civic on the road forever. No. You can't do it.
Let the fucking
Give
76 go. It's just fucking 50 years later. Like, let it go.
Which sort of begs
You know what
the
I mean?
question. I mean, maybe not to get like too personal,
No, dude,
specific
no,
instances, but like in that I have watched several relationships go down in flames. But as I've gotten older, I think the flames have gotten less and less, and we have found like mature spots to sort of break it. Like to go from being a happy couple to being there's something wrong means that there's some sort of conflict and there's some sort of happening. Like how do you deem in a space of maturity and thoughtfulness when is too much? When you're like, okay, now we're just not happy. Now there's no balance. Now we're not like, I don't know.
So this is the golden question, right? So, like, for me, and I'm not a relationship expert. I've been in a lot of them, and they all failed, so I guess you could say, you know, what was Michael Jordan say? No. But, you know what I mean? I've been in a lot of them, and I've made a lot of really fucked up mistakes, you know, and I'm not saying I only make mistakes. I do really good stuff, too, but, like, I've been in enough of them to where I have a good sample to say it's the point where you stop thinking of them and you start thinking more of yourself. Like,
oh wow,
when you're in a relationship, you know, when it's fresh, right? People call it the honeymoon phase, but really what it's about is you can't get enough of that person.
Yes, and you're still kind of leading with like the A-list version of yourself. Like you haven't really let them in, and they don't really know all the dirty laundry.
Right.
You're just kind of throwing out the red carpet version of you. Yeah.
But it's like, have you ever seen this show Dexter?
I'm aware of it, but I haven't seen it.
There's a point where, you know, he's, you know, a lot of what he is, because he's a serial killer, but he only kills people that escape the law. So if somebody like raped and murdered someone and escaped the law, right, and they let him off, he would go find him and kill him.
Wow.
So he has this weird thing going on where he's like, I just want people to realize that I'm doing a good thing and be able to walk out as myself and people praise me for it. But now I have to hide myself because it technically is murder, even though I'm helped. Right? So on that same string, I feel like everybody has, he calls it a dark passenger. You know, you have that thing that's with you that
schism inside yourself,
right,
where there's like good angel, bad angel, but it's you.
Right. And that when somebody finds out who that is, right, in you, it's either that's the fork in the road that they make. Everybody has it. That point where they're gonna find something out about you, and it's gonna be that fork. It's either yes or no. But it's that kind of fucked up beauty when they see that fucked up side of you and they say yes, and they're like, yeah, I can deal with it, that you're like, fuck, I love you even more.
I think I've only felt it once in my life, and I felt deeper for her than anybody ever. Right. And man, when that ended, like, I who you were looking at now is like 2+ years after that ended, and I don't know that I've really found myself again. I don't know how to like.
It's hard.
I don't know how to like cope with accepting relationships when in my head I felt something. I felt somebody accept me so completely that everything else just tastes like chalk now. I can't really like. There's no chocolate in the world anymore.
Perfect.
Like.
Yeah, that's perfectly put. And that's the thing too, is so when people say, you know, relationships, you know, the honeymoon phase, this and this, I've seen couples that are still in that 10 years later, 20 years later.
That's crazy.
Because the thing is that, okay, when you're taking psychology courses, they actually break love down to a science. So, and it sucks. I'm sorry for any English romantics out there. Trust me, I'm the same way. I watch rom-coms are one of my favorite fucking genres. Same. I love them, but relationships and love is broken down to a science. If me and fucking Salma Hayek were on an island together for 10 years, right, I would impregnate her, obviously, and we would fall in love. Like, it's just one of the biggest things about love that they break down is proximity. So, what are the odds? Okay, let's just say that the argument that everyone has their true north, their twin soul, they're like, you know, their soulmate out there, right?
Yeah.
What are the odds that out of the billions and billions of people on the entire earth, they are centrally located
then you're both going to come out of pussy in Detroit, and you're just going to find each other,
Right. This is fucking Harry met Sally, like, this never fucking happens. Right? So, that's the other thing too, as sad as that is to say, that the person that you're with is probably only because of certain things. So, that's the sad part is you know, the person that you're with is probably not that person. And scientifically so. So the other thing too is, like, you know, when people say go travel, right? Go do things you love to do, go step outside your comfort zone. Like, I've met girls, like, from doing things that I would have never done, or things that I didn't plan on doing. You know, there was one time I was like, fuck, I really gotta go get water. Like, I'm out of water at the house. Like, because I drink water bottles, it's just easier on the go. And I'm like, fuck, you know, I'm gonna regret it. Maybe I can stop after work tomorrow. I'll just bump, you know, those decisions that you make.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck, I need to stop being a bum, dude. It's like 11:30 at night, and I was like, I'll go get it. I go, dude, I meet this super cute girl, and she flirts with me, and I get her number. And I'm like, I mean, it ended drastically, just like every other relationship in my life, but you know what I mean? Those opportunities present themselves when you do things that are maybe a little bit outside your comfort zone. But to kind of circle back is, you know, we have this idea, and the media, like rom-coms, they say because you're married, especially because if you're married, but because you have kids or because you have this, that you are supposed to be together. And we forget that fundamental part of a relationship, which is just two people.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of a piece of paper, which marriage is a piece of paper, it's literally a financial contract.
Yeah.
And as much as, you know, we romanticize it, that going through 2 divorces, let me tell you, that's exactly what it is it makes it a lot harder to leave when things go south.
Yeah, for sure.
But we forget that a relationship at the end of the day is 2 people. And when you have all these other pressures like kids or like social pressures and things like that, people looking at you different, like, or, you know, being like, looking like the person that gave up. I hate that term. But like, you won't, like, I've been in so many relationships where I've been scared to leave because of how I would be perceived, on how that person would soil my name there on Fourth, or
Oh, wow.
how
Yeah.
they would feel.
I feel
like,
that, yeah.
And you know, I think it's that point when you stop thinking of that other person, like little things.
Yeah.
You know, I know couples that have been together 15, 20 years, and they still every morning, you know, he'll put like a rose in a vase every morning, right?
Which I guess begs the question, like, have television and romantic comedies and things like that placed like expectations on what love is supposed to look like, and our capacity to embrace whether or not we can even say that we're in love comes down to us checking those boxes versus just having and enjoying a connection with another human being that's just independent. It's just individual. Like it's just how the two of us connect, and it doesn't have to compare. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is probably also the thief of love. Like it just you're looking at other people being like, "Am I doing it right?"
Right.
Maybe that's an American thing that we're trying to like do things right, doing things correctly, as if there is a correct to.
And everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that enjoy long walks on the beach, and I know people that like to use a double-sided dildo. Like, there's really no
good people.
good
American
people
right there.
Yeah. I got it in my car afterwards if you want. For science. No, dude, but you know, it hasn't. I feel like it hasn't created these expectations. The good thing that they have brought to the table is they show you that, yes, it is possible. Like, do I think like the romantic stuff in these rom-coms is possible? Sure. I've seen it. I've seen couples that do that. Still to this day, you know, like 40, 50 years old still do that.
Wow.
And it's beautiful, but it's because they truly found that person that, you know, like I said, I know a couple, I'm remaining nameless, but I know the guy, every morning he'll put a rose in there for him. You know, and he'll just do little things, not because like he's...
And he's not like codependent, or it's not like
no.
He's like desperate,
They're both
like afraid to lose her.
No. It's because he wakes up every morning and he truly loves that woman, and he knows that it brings a smile on her face, and she's going to be in a great mood the rest of that day. And he knows that that's going to be reciprocated back because she's happy. And because of how he makes her feel, she's going to give that right back.
Which is a really...
It's symbiotic.
Delicate trust, and it's so like... So nice to see it function, and I think so easy to break. Like all it takes is you just like forgetting a week or two in a row or something, and all of a sudden your partner is leaning back in a way that you can feel, you can't feel. I don't know. Like
then you just communicate.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you twisted your leg and you had to go to the ER or something like that, and you just say, "Hey, sorry, I couldn't do that. I had to do this and this," and you're like, "It's okay. Like, I know you're good for it every other day. Like, I understand. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it." Like, it's that communication factor. It's like, say something. Like, even if you think it's going to hurt their feelings, like, if it's the truth, it needs to be said.
In Mormon missionary service, it's a very constructed thing. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of different things and what have you, but within that there's this thing that you're supposed to do. I guess a lot of missionary companionships don't do it, but this thing you're supposed to do once a week called companionship inventory, where you just sit down with your companion and there's like, you just kind of take time to compliment them on the things that you've seen that they've been doing that have been going well or working well in teaching situations or whatever, and then be like, and here's what I don't like. Even if it's just like, hey, do the dishes more often or just whatever it is. And the idea behind that is, you know, in a heterosexual, non-sexual companionship, you can just coexist better. But the long-term plan, and it's so interesting how when the Mormon Church started sending them out like 2x2 kind of thing, younger missionaries, like, you know, early 20-somethings, I think something that they started to see and thus started to sort of plug into how to the instructions on sort of how to do it is this is preparation for eventually living with somebody and having like a partner and stuff. So if we can get you in habits that are gonna bloom really great results in your marriage life, let's do that here. And so that's their like companionship inventory. Sit down and learn how to talk to a person that you don't know, that you've never met, that we just put you with and that you probably don't even like. Learn how to communicate so that when you're sitting with somebody you do like, the habits will create just
they're going to
really,
be a lot easier.
Yes.
And the thing is that when you're like, Because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations with somebody. Like, so, one time I had to tell a girl that I was dating that her pussy stank. Yeah.
Which is the worst way to say it, however.
Right. Well, and I didn't say it that way. Right. So it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to talk to someone about. Because it's fucking like, dude, I don't like to be a dick. Like, I know I come off as a dick, but I'm only like that to people I really like. I don't talk to people I don't. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard. It's a hard
for women,
conversation.
it's so personal. Like,
correct.
Ugh.
And so, like, but the thing is that you have to, like, if you truly love someone and you are truly, like, it's like you tell your best friend, like, right? If your best guy friend came over, you'd be like, dude, you smell like shit, right? And you have no problem between that, right? Now, granted, obviously, there is a very large difference between that and your significant other, but, you know, there's ways to say it and be like, hey, here's the deal, like, because, like, it's like someone, like, if you had a booger hanging out of your nose, like, would you want someone to tell you or just have you, like, right? Yeah. Like, you literally want someone to tell you, even though it's, like, embarrassing. Like, at least it's one person instead of everybody.
And at least you don't.
Right.
It's one thing to, like, look back on the last 4 hours of your life and be like, oh, I look like an idiot, versus, like, catching
and no one told me.
And then get to, like, walk away.
Right.
Yeah, confidence.
In hindsight 2020, when you get there, you're like, no one told me.
Right.
Right, but if someone told you in the moment, you'd
That's
be like...
That's interesting. How even that affects your trust with people that you've been meeting along the way, where you're like, right, you don't...
Right.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Really
like those
subtle.
little things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what we were talking about on that Facebook post the other day. Like, you know, just like our relationships with people, like not even your significant other, like just with people in general, I feel like we give credit where it's undue, and we have these invisible, like we have these invisible debts that we feel like we owe people.
Interesting.
Like, and they're there, you can feel them. You just can't see them, nor are they defined.
And if you're like me and like hyper insecure and over analytical, which debts are something that person's energy is actually communicating to you and something that you should actually pay attention to, and which ones are just you overthinking
It may not even be a thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm the exact same way. I overanalyze everything, and it's a curse and a blessing. It's like, I'll never get fucked over because I already am 10 steps ahead, but I go crazy every day, just thinking of things and being like, oh, should I have said that? Or like, how should I have said that? Like, did I approach that person correctly? Right, and you just, right. So, but the thing is like one of the biggest things, and I think it was the post you commented the other day, you know, why do we let people from the past get a free pass? Why does our history together equal like you being able, and or you being able to push boundaries because we have a history. I go through this, you know, like with a ton of people. Like, you know, there's old friends or like even old crushes, like old crushes I'll have, and they'll, you know, if I talk to them in the future, like maybe 5-10 years, like future being like now. You know, and I actually went through that recently. I talked to somebody who like I had crazy over, and you know I hadn't seen them since high school, and the way that they talk now is just like, you know, they're just like very short because they know they can because of that hold that they had on me. And so for me, it was very much like, for a while I was like, hey, like being Mr. Agreeable because I'm like, I don't want to fuck this up. We have so much history. And then it came to a point where, you know, I was just like, you know what, fuck you. Like, I'm a person too. I have, you know, I'm a different person. You don't know me anymore. Like, so would you treat a random person you just met on the street like that? And if you do, I don't want to talk to you. Regardless of what we have. And I think everyone has that vision of how things used to be because it's the only thing that's solid. It's the only thing that is not malleable. Like, what happened in the past is not malleable as far as our technology goes now. Right. But when you think of a memory, right, when you think of when you went to the beach, how that water felt, that water's not going to feel different like in the past. There's no way. Because it already happened. Yeah.
It's almost like time is like a 1990s printer.
Right.
Just consistently. Like, what's printed is printed. It's happened. And
which is why people are so obsessed with posting pictures. I think that's the root of it.
Wow.
Because the future's unknown. And nowadays when you have people dying, when you don't know if one friend is going to be a stranger in a couple of years or a couple months, or you don't know how long things are going to last, and you don't know if you'll ever get to do these things, that, like, it's good to be able to look at something and say, at that time, this happened.
Yeah, make like a record of it.
And that's the end.
Yeah.
There's something so beautiful about that. Like, this happened, the end. No one can
It begs the question if like nostalgia is healthy, or if it's just like dwelling and it's just, I guess, damning, like where you just get stuck in how great something was then, that you don't have the creativity, the energy, the whatever to create, to make your now as good or better than it was then.
Yeah. But then again, hindsight 2020, the Model T Ford was great back then.
For its time, circumstance, etc. And then
It's the
once
same
they started
thing.
paving roads, once they started
Right.
whatever, like vehicles.
But we didn't see that.
Yeah.
We saw when people were going to make cars and stuff like that, we're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, now we're going to start making different stuff and changing things up. And
It's my favorite argument about how people are talking about how technology is going to like take away jobs, and it's just going to leave the whole American workforce like unemployed.
Yeah.
And I've heard several people make the observation that it's like, if you look at like the Industrial Revolution, like people said the same thing about the steam engine.
Right.
And what happened is it just changed things, and new jobs and new industries came out of that, and we just evolved with it.
Right.
And this technology is going to evolve, sure,
Right.
but we will evolve with it. Like people,
Right.
it's not just going to. It's not, Skynet.
Right.
Robots aren't going to just take over and run it.
It's not going to happen one day. I mean, eventually one day, and stepping out of like the human skin, who's to say that's a bad thing? They probably run it better.
Well, in like
We
a
destroy
Wall-E
the
kind of
planet.
sense, I don't know.
We destroy the planet. That's all we do. We destroy the planet. Like, outside of our social importance that we think we have from our ego, what do we really do here? Do you know what I mean?
Or a virus, yeah.
You could look at an
Matrix
ant,
is right,
and I can tell you exactly what an ant does, right? Or a bee. I can tell you what a bee does. They do specific things to keep
within
the earth
the
alive.
ecosystem, yeah, for sure.
That's their motive. Our shit is for us.
But I mean, technically 500 years ago, we were part of the ecosystem. We were planting seeds, and we were tilling the ground, and
We weren't meant to be.
our poop was like, fertilizing.
Yeah.
Like, we were part of it.
But we weren't meant to be.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, even
I
from
don't
an
think we were
evolutionary
even meant to
perspective,
be
like
here.
we start,
Yeah.
like monkeys, any of it, you're like, why?
I don't think that people were meant to be here.
Is that an argument for God then? Did God make us and put us here?
I think, honestly, the more believable thing is, and I get a lot of shit for this all the time, but I'm going to say it anyways because I'm confident in my beliefs.
I'm ready.
There's an episode of The Orville that I watched.
The Star Trek.
It's kind of like a
Parody
parody
thing?
Yeah,
The
with
Seth
Seth
MacFarlane
MacFarlane.
thing,
If
yeah.
you have not watched that, it is phenomenal.
Is it?
It is phenomenal. And if you think Seth MacFarlane's over the top, like if you think Family Guy or American, all these things are crazy.
Million Ways to Die in the West. All that stuff.
Yeah. If you don't like him, good. You will love this show. It is fantastic.
Oh,
and if you
okay.
love Seth MacFarlane, like you will also love this show.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's undeniably great for a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
So kind of a synopsis. In the future, money is bye-bye. Completely gone, which if you've read any books on like societies or like levels of society, money goes away. Spoiler alert, guys. Money doesn't exist in the very, very future. It just doesn't happen because it's not real.
Like we go back to barter and trade? Or?
Not only that, just people just doing shit because it has to be done.
Oh, like
a moral.
unitary. I don't know what
Correct.
the word is for that. Yeah.
It's like a utopia. It really is because like think about it. Like do you do the dishes because there's an allowance? No, you're a fucking adult. You do it because it needs to be done, right? And then you just do it.
Wow. So we all just get our heads out of our asses.
We
It's
just
just community exists in its perfect sense.
Yeah, because think of it this way: like if everybody did what they love to do, because there's no money. Like if everyone just like lived how they live,
Yeah.
like it doesn't cost anything to do anything here. And I think people forget that. Like it doesn't cost anything to do anything here except for manual labor. Like the fucking ancient Egyptians, like right, like probably a bad example. Let's think further back, cavemen, right? Like did they go, well, in order for me to build this, it's going to be like 16 rocks and fucking 4 pebbles to do this? Like no, you just did it, and the Earth doesn't charge you a tariff.
And it evolved. Like the first
Correct.
shanty they made or whatever
Correct.
was crap, and then they observed it
Right.
and were like, huh. And
Right.
engineering brain made the next one better.
Yeah, but we're fucking selfish fucks, and because the Earth doesn't demand that. We only answer to the Earth. I think people forget that, and when it's too late and we all die from the sun being able to basically penetrate our atmosphere, like we'll realize that we literally answer to the Earth,
yeah,
and not any man.
That we are carbon-based life forms, and
that is all we are, and our importance is solely on Earth. Like, so spoiler alert, that goes away. Anyways, in the show, like it's all moral. It's based on your worth is based on your moral worth. So like what you do, how do you impact society, and that's what you're worth.
Wow.
And
there's no like strain or stress on that within the show of like.
Because who gives a fuck, right?
Okay.
Right? Who gives a fuck?
That's interesting.
If everybody got on board,
we all give an incredible fuck now.
Because we're worried about paying bills. But imagine if we didn't have bills and everyone was doing what they love to do.
You check a job that you hate because you have to pay bills.
Correct.
And in a world where that doesn't exist.
But what if we actually utilized you for your strengths, and you do what you love to do, and you just do that? Like if you love to be an artist, why not just like paint for people because that's what you love to do? Because there's no money in it, so you have to go work at fucking Wendy's, right? Or maybe you're a music artist and you can't really make any money doing music. Nowadays it's a lot easier, different conversation, but maybe you just love to make music for people to listen to because you enjoy that. You just do it. Or like, you want to be
base the show on a spaceship?
Okay, yes. So basically, how that circles back is he is basically, so because of his moral standing, they grant him a ship. And his job is to assemble a crew, and they're basically, how American, is to go out into the universe and basically, like, study shit. Like, go to different planets and, like, study it, or if they see something, like, and report back. Just so they can get a greater understanding of the entire universe.
Got it.
So, basically, like, Columbus, like, style.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he gets in, he has, like, a multiracial crew, and not just racial, like, black, white, like, races of organisms. So like there's a blob like on there, like there's a fucking like and it's crazy. And it's played by Norm Macdonald. Yeah, it's great. It's fucking great, dude. And anyway, so basically each episode it's funny because they go to different planets and stuff like that. Yeah. And each episode it's funny because they go to a planet and their issue is like a pseudo like explanation for an issue that we have on Earth like now. For example, the God thing, right? Yes. They go to this planet and they tell them, okay, so 7 days in space is 1,000 years on this planet. Okay. Wow. Okay. So they say, hey, this is a cool little fucking planet. Like, let's go see where they're at, right? And Seth MacFarlane and his human crew know about how Earth was before. Like, this is in the future, like 5,000 or 6,000, right? So like they know like what it was like when we had all this shit. Okay. Right. So they go there and they say, don't touch anything, don't talk to anybody, be a ghost, right? Yeah. Like and just study shit. So they go there and then basically they're in like villages and shit. So it's back in like that kind of time period, like that colonial, like or like pre-colonial style.
Like medieval.
Like medieval, almost medieval, right? So they go, and this lady, like, you know, they have advanced technology and shit. So they see this, she sees this little girl. This little girl spots her. Okay. And so she's like, deer in headlights. Like, what do I do? Yeah. The little girl falls, like, tries to run and falls down, busts her head open. And it's bleeding. Like, she would have died. Like, there's no technology there at that point. Right. So she takes her little ray gun. She has to make a quick decision because if she doesn't, this little girl's gonna fucking die. She takes her ray gun and just like fixes her head. And the little girl's just like, what in the fuck? Just like, right? Right. So then the little girl runs off, or she asks her name and she tells her. And then the little girl runs off and she's like, thank you, blah, blah, leaves, right? They go back. She doesn't tell the crew what she did because she's like, fuck, they're gonna. So they go back, spend a week up there. They come back. It's 1,000 years later. They have statues built of this woman, and they have a whole church of her. Wow. With a Bible and everything of this woman. Mm-hmm. And they're like saying scriptures and stuff like that of basically like she is God. Yeah. So begs, and I love that episode because it's so fucking feasible. Mm-hmm. It's so fucking feasible. Mm-hmm. Like, my son asked me the other day, you know, because we were watching Finding Dory or something, and he saw, like, the octopus, like, turn into, you know, being able to camouflage and shit.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, that's crazy that they can camouflage. I'm like, yeah, do you also know that they can turn into the actual, like, texture as well? They don't just camouflage, they turn into the texture. So if I put them on a blanket, they wouldn't just look like the blanket, they would feel like the blanket too.
That's interesting.
And I was like, and we started talking about it, I was like, so this is why when people say there aren't aliens, who's to say, like, they couldn't just, like, come here and, like, assemble a person and then feel like a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
have you ever seen the Ricky Gervais movie, The Invention of Lying?
yeah, I'd love that.
Like, I mean, maybe it's a different take on just the whole God or the invention of God or whatever,
yeah,
but just the idea that, like...
Okay. Like...
that, I mean, I guess the point of that movie is, like, if the message carries enough weight or carries enough possibilities, like what that can do to culture and society and how... Basically, I guess maybe the message of that movie is, like, how desperate are we as creatures that are smart enough to understand our own existence, but just can't seem to see past that. And it creates sort of a desperation in us to be like, but what's next? Or where's this going? And
the human ego is probably our best and our worst asset. And I say that constantly. The human ego is a beautiful thing because I believe that is what separated us from a lot of different beings, because we have that drive to always do better and innovate. And not just innovate over 1,000 years, like innovate fucking immediately. Like some animals, like it takes them hundreds or thousands of years to adapt to something, and it has to be passed genealogically. Humans, if I fucking invent something on how to do it, I mean, you have babies coming out the womb that know how to swipe a fucking phone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that happened, like, just having a child and showing them. Like, we don't have to worry about that time. That's why we advance so fast. But also, it's hard because we don't think about, like you said, what's next? Like, if you take the human part out of it, like, I used to take philosophy classes in college. And I loved them because you remove yourself from your human skin, is what they would say. Remove yourself from your human skin and realize we are in a big-ass fucking universe. Like, how egotistical are we to think that we are the most important thing on the planet? That's like a fucking, like, pigeon being like, I'm super important because I pick up fucking popcorn off the road. Like, little does it know, like, the bigger picture of, like, humans look at you like you're a piece of shit.
And yet, like, as humans, and I don't know, maybe it's only within, like, the last 100 years that this argument can be really made, but, like, our intellect is such, or maybe our capacity to observe, but however we have evolved to this state, it's almost like we've finally reached this kind of, like, fever pitch of capacity meets possibility, and we're just in a scary spot where I don't think we're dealing with it well. And I think social media has almost in a beneficial way showed us how poorly we're dealing with our grasp of things and our frustration with having become aware of how much we don't have a grasp of it. It's almost like it must be what a 2-year-old feels like, when they like they can see, they can watch you do something, or they can see the possibility.
They have a general understanding of what's going on.
Yes,
but beyond that, you're like, dude, if you walk out in front of this car, they're gonna fucking hit you. I always tell people, I'm like, what if tomorrow, like, Mark Zuckerberg, like, revealed himself to be an alien, and this whole experience of social media was to basically show us how unready we are for the rest of the universe.
What would you do? What would I do?
It would make sense.
Like, it would, to be presented a grand human failure that you were a member of and you were a party to, like, when you wake up the next day after that and you're safe and there's still food in the cupboard and, like, you get to continue existing. What do you do with yourself when you're just like, well, we as a species are still fucked up and are giant fuck ups. Like how? And I guess even beyond that, almost like that Jodie Foster movie Contact, where like part of the beauty of that movie is, there's so much build up, and she finally gets to that moment, and she's on the beach, and it turns into her father, just because like I thought you'd be more comfortable with this image. And her first question is, "What's next?" And he's just like, "This was a first step, and in time you'll take another." And there's no like real detail to it. He's not like explaining to her what comes next. He's just telling her it's special that you got this far, and all we can tell you is there are civilizations everywhere that are at various stages of this. We're down the road from you, and that doesn't make us better than you. We're just down the road from you. You'll get there at some point. And they wrap up the movie in a way where it basically just turns into the fact that she realizes that she does have faith, because she's in this situation where now she knows something that she can't prove to anybody else, but she does believe it, and so she has faith, and good for her. But I can't, and even at the end where like she's talking to the kids and she's like, if there's all this space out there, if we're the only ones, what a waste of space, and it's cute. But I have to imagine that like that created like a thorn in her mind where she's just like, I'm aware that the possibilities are actually infinite, and my ego means I'm now frustrated with being this simple human thing, and that I can't just like...
Right, but the thing is, we don't need someone to come down and tell us. Now, granted, I preface that with, we're stupid as fuck, and yes we do, but we don't. Look up at the fucking sky and realize how infinitesimal that we are. Like, look how small we are compared to like, if you look at the statistics of how much we know that we can study, like, not even, like, if you had almighty, power and were able to look at the entire universe, and that's to say it's just one universe, like, it's kind of like, so you remember Men in Black, I think it was the very first one, where at the end...
The pull-out.
The pull-out.
Yeah.
And it has, like, those little marbles, which are the universe, and he's just...
They're just playing with them?
Right.
Yeah. It's a good question.
And we would never know.
Never.
And that's the thing, is, like, step outside your human skin and realize that. And when people talk about robots and technology, like, I think we are put here to do that. Because just because we're here and we did something special does not mean we are it. That doesn't mean we're the end. Like, it doesn't mean humans are going to be here forever, or we're going to be the end. There's several species that have died out that have been here forever. Like the dodo bird, and there's been tons of, right? Like, just stupid shit.
And we get so precious about extinction. We're like, let's protect the species and let's keep them here.
Right, so we've been here a very long time. But, like, what about...
In various stages, like...
What about the ocean, too?
Scale. Yeah.
The ocean.
Yeah.
Like, when people talk about Atlantis and all this other shit, like, it wasn't, like, a clean cut when fucking someone started walking on the ground and they were like, well, this is what we're gonna do now.
Yeah.
There had to have been kind of like a hybrid at some point. Like, who's to say that there aren't people that fucking live underwater?
There's this Nirvana song recently that, like,
you know what I mean?
I'm becoming more and more, like, impressed by and sort of moved by. It's called Turnaround. It's off Incesticide. And, like, lyrically, basically, he's just like, take a look outside your city. Blah, 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 like, see who you are. Take a look outside your country. Take a look outside the planet and turn around. And, like, the way that he's just talking about, you're no big deal. You're, like, lyrically speaking, I mean, it's the humbling, I guess, in the way he describes it, I think his intent is to try to battle human ego in that sense and be confrontational about it. But on a poetic scale, it's interesting to me that, like, a 20-year-old kid from freaking Seattle could... And maybe drugs did that. Maybe drugs helped him, like, get in touch with something like that. But to see your own relation to creation and existence, and just kind of just take an artistic stab at
meta, that meta understanding of. But here's the thing too: is like we aren't right now. I don't think, like, we're not anything right now, but we could be.
Mm-hmm.
We could be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, going back to WALL-E, like, that movie, my kids fucking love that movie, and I'm glad, because I'm like, this,
Great
like,
storyline.
can happen.
Yes.
And we are...
Kind of already is.
Yeah, we are
Mm-hmm.
scary close to, like, that being, like, 100 years away.
Once we get chairs attached to our iPhones, it's over.
It's fucking over, dude. Once that happens, like, I'll be honest, like, it'd be cool as fuck, but, like, we should also invent a way for us to, like,
My
also
ego
work out
says-
without working out.
I would see it happening and would purposely resist it myself.
But then
just
again,
let other people
like,
do it and
once
be
you
like,
try
I
it,
want the chair. I
it's-
don't want that upgrade.
but
I'll
then
go back to
again-
an iPhone 6. I don't care.
But then again, like, it's one of those things where when you try it, and you're like, this is pretty fucking cool, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
It's one of the reasons I'm nervous to try like VR once it gets
Try
really
new
good
things,
because I'm like,
dude.
I don't know.
people said the same things about, like, healthy smoothies and shakes and stuff to me, because they're like, oh, you should start your day with, and they would give me, like, a kale, like, type thing, and I was like, oh, fuck you guys, like, your healthy bullshit. I tried it, and I was like, god damn it, and I started feeling better,
Mhm.
and I started, like, I was like, fuck. Alright. But it's one of those things with, like, going back to, like, WALL-E and shit, right? Like, that whole movie, like, at the end of the movie where they go back to Earth,
Yeah.
and they're all on the same page.
That's interesting.
All of them
Yeah.
unanimously are on the same page of,
Yeah.
we need to recolonize this planet,
Mhm.
and we need to fix it together. And you had the entire population on board.
And you know what's sort of even more interesting about that I didn't think about until this moment?
Yeah.
If I understand the narrative of WALL-E, the whole point of the spaceship and just launching them into outer space was, and keeping robots on Earth, was they wanted to see if Earth would fix itself.
Mhm.
And Earth fixed itself. We didn't do anything.
No.
A plant
WALL-E
came
just
up
found
by
it.
itself, and then they were given information
Right.
of that, and then they
Right.
came. And if you kind of think about the sociocultural selfishness of the fact that it's
Right.
like, I mean, we fucked it up and we get that. We're gonna walk
Right.
away
We're
and
gonna
see if
dip
it'll fix
out
itself
for a while.
And now we're coming back at the moment that it
Right.
shows some
Right.
signs of having
Right.
fixed itself. It's
Right.
like maybe we just stay on the spaceship and fuck
That's
off
what I'm
forever.
saying. You just fuck off.
Yes.
Maybe there's another planet that's better for us. Maybe Earth is just not.
Maybe Jupiter needs to suck us up.
Right.
We need that.
But who's to say Earth is our final destination too? Like, maybe there's another planet that is just better for us, that self-maintains better and is more aligned with our, like, beliefs and stuff now. Like,
Mhm.
Earth may not be the final, it just may be where we started.
Are you with Elon Musk? Should we go to Mars?
I believe, yeah.
See
Why
how
not?
that
Why
works.
not? Like, speaking of Brad Pitt, like, earlier, there was a movie called Ad Astra that he was
I
in.
haven't seen it. I heard it's great.
Okay, so it's funny because there's a scene where he goes to, basically we've colonized every planet, and so we go there, and he goes and, you know, it's almost like an airport, like you get in there, there's like a subway, a Panda Express there, I was like, that is so fucking perfect, like we would totally do that. It was like, welcome to the moon, and then there's like a Panda Express here, I'm just like, we would totally fucking do that. But
We would.
it's that beauty, but it's also like, yes, it's the kind of thing of like, yeah, we fuck shit up and then we just dip out and you gotta do your thing for a couple thousand years and then we'll come back when it's all good, right? And we're good, Earth, like we're cool. But it was also the fact that that human, you know, the pilot or the captain,
Yeah.
he looked back on history
Yes.
and he took the initiative to say, we fucked this up. But it's not irreversible.
Yeah.
And we can live in a symbiotic relationship with the earth.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be we fuck it up and then it replenishes and wipes us out. And it, like it did in history.
Like the emotional or
Right,
mental evolution of that human.
why don't we connect to
Yes.
this? It's earth. We're made from the shit that's on it.
Which is ironic because indigenous cultures, like most of the religion of
Right.
that is that the earth has a soul and
yes.
is like be
Correct.
coexistent. Yeah.
But the thing is, we're made from the shit that's on it.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, we do have, it's like our parent. That's why they call it Mother Nature. Like,
Sure.
it is our parent. Like, we literally are connected to it in a biological and a weird way. There's a reason why you see the ocean and it just moves you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You're made of fucking water.
Which begs the question: is it
Right.
possible
Like, there's
to,
a reason we like these things. Is because that.
corral the top
Yeah.
like 5% and murder them all, and would the rest of us be able to engage in what you're talking about? Like, are the rest of us humble enough that we could just like...
We're too stupid.
Is technology
we are.
like ruined us?
Technology actually can help us. That's the thing everyone doesn't realize. Like, these are tools, like, in what universe, like, is having more technology or more access to information bad? Blows my fucking mind when people say technology ruined everything or the internet ruined. You're telling me having access to more information is bad. You are a simpleton, sir. Like, but the way we use it is wrong. But it could be good. If we were all on that same page, imagine we were all on that ship, right? And we all were on the same page. Let's help the planet. Let's help foster the relationships that we have with other ecosystems on Earth. Like, let's stop worrying about fucking greed and money and pharmaceuticals and all this other shit. Like, let's just be on the same page to be good fucking people and, like, just help each other and stay alive as long as possible. Can we all just come to that realization? And if we did that and threw everything else away and just said, can we just be people and evolve and be better? It'll never happen unless, like, an alien were to come down and say, this is what happens. Like, we had a press conference.
Maybe that is the second coming of Jesus. Maybe there really is.
Well, that is Jesus.
Like,
maybe we were at that at one point, and they tried, and he's just like, hey,
he strung him up, and he's like, all right, well, just leave you guys to hang for a few thousand.
Yeah, like, all right, fuck you guys.
Right.
Right, because you read the First Testament, and you're like, fuck. Like, he probably saw what, like, crude humans did to him. They probably looked different, and then tried to chain him up on something, right? Maybe it not have been what the Bible said. Maybe they saw he was different and tried to, like, manhandle him and fucking put him on something that looked like a cross. Because he was different.
In connection to what you're saying about aliens, like, sort of taking on our humanness, like, I have this theory about the God in the Bible and why the Old Testament and the New Testament are so drastically different, as well as just our current, today's, I guess, relationship to God. Like, the Old Testament, generally speaking, is this really fire and brimstone, aggressive, I guess kind of dictatorial God.
And it's very clear, like, they're very, as we see them, almost like Thanos-like.
Yeah,
things,
extremely.
Right.
And then the New Testament, Jesus is down here, and there's just a whole different message going on. And then, like,
he's one of us, right?
Leaves, or gets killed, but
first one's God, second one's Jesus. That's what people don't realize. First,
it's God. And here's the theory that I have, because being raised in Mormonism, the idea that they teach, that I think is interesting, is that the God of the Old Testament was Jehovah, which was Jesus disembodied, like he hadn't come to earth yet and had an earth experience. So the way he was interacting with and reacting to humans was complete confusion and frustration, because he had no idea what it was like to be human. He was just a spiritual God force that his father, God, put him in charge of. And so he was just like, just
it's like going into a company
every turn.
It's like going into a company and you don't know who's in there.
So then he comes down through Mary and has like a human experience. And now after that, of the many religions of the world that I genuinely believe had communion with God, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Mormonism, Judaism, whatever, the attitude of that God has changed. And what I think it is, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it follows this storyline that Jehovah was a pre-existent Jesus, and then he came down here and had a human experience, and now he knows what it's like to be us, and so his dealings with us have a lot more to do with compassion and tolerance, and give us space and let us make mistakes and let us figure it out, and be there in the moments where we feel like we need love and redemption and forgiveness or whatever, and just hold us and help us feel like we can do it and get us back up on our feet and get us moving forward, because the entire point of humanity, human existence, is growth and progression and development. And so if he could stop spanking us at every turn and start helping and nurturing us, the only way that he could do that was by being in our skin. And thus, I mean, if Jesus is just an alien, it's interesting that the only point that he finally started treating us a little more nicer was after he
Right.
put on what we are. I
Right.
really felt it from the inside.
Think of it this way, like, and that's so great to say because, like, I tell people all the time, do I think I'm agnostic / atheist. I kind of go back and forth. I just, I have very specific, like, thoughts about things. Like, I try not to, but, like, when I don't hate anybody who is religious.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, they have just as much of a chance of being right as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it, but again, that doesn't make it not true. Like, but the one thing I do find, like, because I truly believe that aliens had a huge impact on a religion.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love that episode so much, because I think that is the most feasible.
Do you ever watch that Ancient Alien stuff or any
Oh,
of that, like,
fuck yeah.
History Channel stuff?
Fuck yeah. But there's just tons of, like, things that you just can't explain.
Yeah.
And even if you could, that's only based on what we know of science right now.
Which is
that
all
accurate?
assumptive.
Or is
And that's
that
okay.
accurate?
Yeah.
Right? So, like, we thought the Earth was fucking flat at one point. And we were dead ass set on that, right? So, when they talk about, Immaculate Conception,
Yeah.
who's to say they, like you said, having that human experience, you would have to go from start to finish of being a human. So couldn't he just download consciousness into a child and
So interesting.
know that he was Jesus the whole time? Like, he had his mind and everything. Like, he was just downloaded into a fetus and basically had to live the life to understand.
It'd be like trying to run iOS Catalina on a Game Boy.
Right.
Where you're just
Right.
I mean, he still had his
Right,
Jesus-ness,
right.
but it was running on
Right,
a very different
right.
hardware.
But he was also limited by
Yeah.
human things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, imagine, like, you were reborn, right? Like, you died today. You were just immediately reborn into, like, a child.
Right.
And you had your mind.
Mhm.
But things like infantile amnesia and things like that happen to only humans. Like, right? And then you try to talk as a baby, but you don't have those types of muscles and stuff formed yet.
Yeah,
So you can
gotta
just
develop
cry
all of
and things
it.
like that,
Yeah.
right? By the time you,
Mhm.
right? So that
That's
thing too is
interesting.
very possible. And then
Yeah.
once he reached the end of his life, it's probably like, cool, like, yes, I can interact with humans now because I've lived a human life. I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think people are crazy when they say Immaculate Conception because, we thought it would probably be inconceivable to, like, control a character in a video game and
That's interesting.
be another person,
Yeah.
which you are. When you're playing video games, that character has no idea that you're playing it.
Right.
It has no idea that
Yeah.
the reason it wakes up is because you turn on the game.
Yeah.
In your carbon life,
Mhm.
you turn on a mechanical game.
Mhm.
And the thing is that we have this affinity to technology.
Mhm.
So things like our ability that we're all in a simulation, like, there's a reason we're drawn to certain things.
Mhm.
And technology, people think it's like electricity-based technology. We have always been, technology, if you look it up, is not like electricity-based only. Technology is I forgot the actual definition of it, but it's using tools, like, it's just using tools and things like that. Like, it has nothing to do with technology. Or, what do you call it?
Electricity.
Electricity.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, just even like, it's kind of hilarious how, like, just having opposable thumbs, like.
So here's the definition of technology for those that don't know.
Mhm.
The application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. That is the definition of technology.
So that, I mean, that's like cross pollination. That's anything, like the
That's
application.
taking a stick,
Yeah.
a monkey taking a stick and putting it into a log to get bugs.
Mhm.
Like, so when people say technology ruins things, like, first of all, go fuck yourself. Second of all, the thing is like, that's the thing though, right? We have an affinity for things like that
Mhm.
since back in the day, or else why would we have done it? Like,
Yeah.
like, since back when we used, like, stones and things like that. Like, we just have this connection to, like,
Creativity.
creativity. We have this there's a whole fucking side of the brain for it.
Mhm.
Like, we have this connection, this undescribable connection to, like, the earth, to creativity and to technology. Like, there's a reason when you play video games, it fucking rules. Because, like, right? Like, how can you... It's like that Joe Dirt quote, like, why are boobs good, right? Like, why... right? Like,
It's a good one.
right? Because there's certain things that you're just fucking, like, attracted to.
Or
Like a baby.
For it, yeah, for
Dude,
sure.
and it took me until my fucking son was born. My youngest son was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him a phone. He had no fucking idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was maybe, I think, 8 months when he actually started interacting.
Mm-hmm.
The look on his fucking eyes and his just like affinity for it,
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no, this is a phone and this is how you, like he was just connected. Like he intuitively knew that this was making his life easier.
And there's an irony of like,
Just
even with the iPhone, or not, I guess all smartphones are like this, the Fisher-Pricedness of it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yes, it's ease of use for us, but for how can a child not, like,
Right.
I push button, that happens.
Cool.
It's very like rat in a maze kind of thing. It's
Right.
like, oh, all I have to do, next step.
Like we're not teaching you to hunt.
Yes,
or
intuitive. You use that word. Yes, it's
Yeah.
exactly that.
Like we're not teaching you to hunt or do whatever. Like we've
Right.
gotten past that and we've
The simplest
grown.
tactile things. Yeah.
Right. But like I show him a calculator and then he's just like, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But like, or I show him like Facebook or I'll show him YouTube. Like YouTube would just blew his fucking tits off because he's like, I can watch any move video I want, or I can watch people doing things on this screen,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to actually be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have this affinity, this unexplainable. You can't tell me, you can't look me in the eye and tell me why you truly love technology. You can tell me things about technology that are cool,
Yeah, I could
but
do
you can't tell me why you're just
analysis,
drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they cleared your memory and they put you in a room with a bunch of different things, like a phone, like a little fucking like thing that the little ball thing, right? Or like something like that, like you'd be drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be drawn to it.
Yeah,
Because
there's
why the fuck not?
A curiosity that I guess maybe it's just our intelligence. Maybe,
Because
but I don't
why not?
know. Our rats, I guess they'll walk up and
Right.
sniff anything and just
Right.
see if it's worth observing.
Because why not?
Ants? Yeah, is there anything on this earth that's not curious? Are plants not curious? They grow toward the sun, don't
Dude,
they?
don't
Like,
get me fucking started. I get cold crazy on a daily basis, but the thing is that no one can prove why I am. I just bring shit up that people think is so asinine. But like, so I have a theory that that plants actually communicate to each other.
makes
Now,
sense.
either telepathically, to where they have the ability to, and I have good reason to believe this.
Okay.
Okay, watching the Joe Rogan podcast, he had on somebody who had he was a mushroom expert.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't even think that was a thing, but he studied like fungal plants. Like he studied fungi,
Yeah.
like specifically mushroom based things.
Mm.
And one of the things he said was that there are mushrooms on the earth that if an animal takes a bite out of one of them,
Uh-huh.
the rest of them, through some way that they know, will actually change their flavor
What?
to taste like shit, pretty much. Yeah,
I mean,
blew my goddamn mind.
it's like a,
Their flavor will change.
is that like a joint root system, or like how could they possibly?
It's just like if you saw someone being murdered, you'd run, right?
Do you think that exists in the same sphere as, like, since science just hasn't even like skimmed the surface of how the human brain works, like
Or how
we don't
anything
know
works.
organically speaking how the intelligence of plants, like where they would put it or how it
Well,
functions.
think about it. Like, how fucking far along are we on these different iPhones and shit, and we still can't talk to animals?
I like the Christian idea of that like something about Adam and Eve and the whole like eating of the fruit, which is symbolic, and I have no idea what actually fucking happened, but something about that transaction, like, or even just leaving the Garden of Eden, like whatever that was, I mean, symbolically, like at the time we could and did speak with and coexist with the animals, but something about leaving that space of perfection, of really falling and becoming like flawed and selfish and whatever humans, has caused an enmity that we could speak to animals, but the level of connectedness and humility and love and oneness that we would have to feel with them to open them up to where they'd even want to talk to us is maybe beyond our reach. Just in our current sphere.
Right. But think of it this way, like your dog.
Mm-hmm.
I know you'd like to think your dog understands what you're saying. It doesn't. It associates what you say, like the levels of your voice and the certain, like, the certain words you say. They have no idea what that means, but they know, like, though when you say certain words, it means a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I say, buddy, and I say it that way, he knows he's in trouble. Not because he understands that I'm disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
He just knows that results in usually like a spanking or like something like that, right? They don't understand you, okay? But there's a weird thing when if you're like, hi buddy, how you doing? And his tail starts wagging and he's just fucking stoked that you're even around.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand what you're saying, but he can feel that you are like
positive, loving,
and loving to him, and he's just stoked. And he has this affinity for you
completely,
and he's yours forever.
Is it weird that doesn't seem to exist across the animal kingdom, like
snakes or stuff like that?
Javelina, like there's not another animal that seems to be that instantly trusting.
But that's been
fostered. To try, I don't know.
I think that's because it's been fostered. Because so here's the thing. So like back in the day, and I only know this because like I watch a shit ton of stuff. Essentially, the relationship that we had with dogs, like how that happened, is we had, they're wolves, they're wild wolves, and apparently what happened is that we were humans just doing our human thing, like right, making fires and like kind of right, like just hunting for our food and stuff like that. Well, there was a scarcity in a certain area where like certain wolves like were like not getting enough food. So what happened was that the wolves would go over and they would start eating the people's food.
Oh, like scavenging.
Right.
Okay.
And at one point, a bear came over to the campsite, supposedly.
Okay.
All right. And now you have a weird thing where, like, let's just say you and I are enemies, but someone in the room walks in with a gun.
Yeah.
You and I are officially against that person because they pose a mortal threat to you and I as coexisting biological species.
Yep. The enemy of my friend.
They're the common enemy.
They're
the common enemy, right? So what happened was that the wolves fended off the bear. And we kind of looked at that differently. Like, we actually are similar. Like, we're not. So we would leave meat out and stuff. The wolves would come eat the meat. Wow. And then if anything would go down, right, and if anything would go down, they would protect because that's their food source.
Oh, so initially it was just kind of they weren't, domesticated yet, but they were allies.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I know this place gives me food. Yeah. And I know, like, if anyone tries to fuck with that, I'm going to fuck them up. And then we're just like, okay, cool. Like, we'll give you some food. You keep the bears and stuff away. And, like, just a symbiotic. And eventually, they probably got closer and closer. And they're like, hey, like, oh, okay. And then eventually they're probably just like, hey, dude. Like, and the animal could probably feel that humanness of us. Because it's cool being human. Like, we do have that compassion of us to where, like, other species, like, you see it all the time in these random videos, the guy that has, like, the service crocodile or shit like that, right?
No, but that's funny.
But, like, there are certain species, like, if you show them enough humanness, they feel that, and they will respond accordingly, right? Like, you just gotta love them. Like, certain animals require more love than others. Like, a dog is very simple. If I take a dog home, it's gonna love me. Like, it's pretty simple that way. But a snake, or something that is incapable of having those inherent feelings, I may need to work with it a little bit more for it to be a little bit more comfortable with me, or, like, trust me, or...
Yeah, right? That's true. That's super true.
Because there's some animals that are incapable of those things. Like...
Interesting question. Interesting physiological
It's just weird, right? And then, so... like, going back to plants, like, maybe we just don't know enough about how they communicate.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, maybe they communicate telepathically, and if so, like, why aren't we trying to figure out how they do that and have us do it? Same with, like, how things camouflage. Like, why are we not, like, put more into... It's because of the whole capitalist agenda or things of, like, we're worried about all these things instead of worrying about, hey, like, we have all this cool shit happening here.
Mhm.
Like, we have octopus that can change in all these things. Like, that'd be fucking cool if we could do that too, but we don't put a bunch of research into that. Because life would be so much fucking easier. Or, like, there are certain animals that, like, will do certain cool shit. Like, why can't we just take that and, like, figure out a way to make us do that? Or, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's that weird, and maybe we're not at that point where, and if we could talk to them, would they say anything that we would understand in our frame of reference, right? Like, if you were to talk to a dog, they're probably not going to say, like, I missed you all day. Probably just gonna be like, food, hungry, things like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs where the monkey has, like, that thing. So it's just, like, the whole communication factor, like, are they even, is it even worth, like, you would then have to be able to figure out what they're saying, translate it to English or insert language.
What was that movie?
And then also, like, figure out a way to translate human to
what was the
species, right?
The Amy Adams movie, Jeremy Renner, about aliens coming in. You know what I'm talking about? I forget what it's called, but like I mean, the movie had a narrative and there was a point to it, but one of the interesting things about the movie to me
What was it?
Was
Amy Adams. Sorry, it's
Visitors or the Arrival? The Arrival.
Arrival. There you go. Good call.
Like, and I would just love to hear the writers or somebody talk about how they did it, how they determined that if aliens came, the vastness and difference between how our language functions would be such that to find some sort of common ground where we could communicate would be so hard, and how they actually determined like the sentence structure, the symbolic stuff, and they turned they figured out how to turn their little like hieroglyphs into stuff that we could, and then we could like do the same thing back. We could create something that we could send back to them, and even it was, I thought it was kind of special that they never got it to a flawless point. They were like, we can send things to them, we have the general idea, but there are things where like we don't know whether they mean party or whether they mean war, and that's kind of a big difference in the sense of like
You would have to be
what
human.
we would have to, and so similarly, what you're talking about with like planets with animals,
It's like Google Translate, right?
yeah, that like, you know, Spanish to English, or most languages have kind of a Latin base, or a lot of them anyway. So there's some clear way to specifically translate, so that you're making a very clear communication. Whereas what you're talking about is
there's more
maybe
than
what they communicate is what we would consider like emotional communication, and isn't actually even in words and sentences. It's very.
Maybe it's better this way.
I don't know.
Because the thing is like maybe it's better. It's kind of like when you fuck shit up by saying it instead of just letting things be what they are. Like, think about relationships. Like, sometimes like when you're vibing with somebody and you're having a good time, sometimes it fucks it up when you're like, hey, so I feel a lot of feelings for you and I think we should like do this, right? And then sometimes they're like, girls are sometimes turned off by that. They're like, that kind of ruined it, right? Sometimes it's just good to just like feel that connection to something, and because it's real. Like, you don't have to put a label or something on it. Like, you could just feel it. That is the best kind of thing in the world, because like it's like the realest thing it could possibly be. So like a dog, like even if you could talk to them, like I said, there's more than one hurdle. It's not just it's not just dog to fucking human, or dog to English. It's dog to human, and they don't think like we do.
That's
like, they're not gonna think in like great like detail. They're not gonna say, today I went to the store. Like, they're gonna be like hungry.
Yeah, what are their
Or something
motivations?
like
What are
that.
their intentions? What? Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are they like? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What are their intentions? That's perfect. Exactly. But like, maybe just not talking to them is great. Maybe because we have that thing, right? Like, we know, like, because we could feel it. I know, like, when my cat comes up and just like rubs on me, right? And just like, I know that when I get home and I sit down, and the first thing he does is like he comes in and he just rubs on me, right? He just kind of like purrs and stuff like that. I know that he's happy, and I know that he loves me, like, and he's been waiting for me to come home because I could feel that. And I pet him and he gets all happy, right? Like I could feel that.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll say something like, "Hey, buddy, how are you doing?" Because it's for me, man.
Yeah, he's communicating, and you're going to communicate
in the way that I do,
which is verbal. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So
that's interesting.
It's weird, like,
and actually, creates a really good image for the fact that humans communicate multi-layeredly. Like we use our words, we use our body language, we even have energy. Like if you're at work and you're just like, "How's your day going?" You're like, "Fine," because my energy isn't speaking fine. You know I'm not fine. I'm just having a rough day. But
you have the social intelligence to know, like, right, to our cat, like if I was just like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" Like, or about a dog, "Hey, you want to go outside?" "Hey, you want to go outside?" But I'm just dead face, like he would know no different.
Exactly. That's interesting.
But on the same token, if I came in and I was upset or crying, for some fucking reason, they know they can feel that I am not doing well.
Yeah.
Like I've had several times, like dude, there's this whole thing where like dogs just know shit, or animals like in general, like just know shit because. There's times like where I would come in and I would just be crying. Like I just had a terrible day and I would just fucking cry. Yeah. My dog would just come up and just like nose his way in there and lick me and try to be like, "Everything's cool, man. Like, just chill." And you're just like, how would you fucking know that? Or like when dogs just like know shit isn't right? Or like with a baby, the baby's crying, they'll go in there and try to. I've had several times when my youngest son was born where the dog would go in and like try to fix them or try to roll them over or something or do something because they know just shit.
The whole Lassie idea that didn't come from nowhere. Like they're intuitive. Yeah,
it's almost better to speak without words, even with people. Like, would you rather granted, having a connection with somebody verbally is cool when you guys agree on shit and like whatever you guys like the same shit. Like that's cool, but like you can't really put that price tag on when you're just like looking at them in their eyes. And you just like feel like that.
Yes.
And it's just that thing, right? And you just like, this is fucking
give.
Right.
In the
and
most
just being
pure sense of that.
Yeah.
Just give.
Right. And just feel so vulnerable at that point. And being okay with that because like that person can receive you safely. And like you can't put that really into words. Right? Like you just feel that.
Beautifully so. Yeah, you can. It's great. It's the best human experience you can have.
Right.
I think.
Right. Well, aside from like getting some good pussy, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. But even that
note, for the people who have hung out this long, they're like, how do these two fucks know each other?
How are we in a public library and not been arrested by now?
I'm impressed we were able to keep it down after we got warm. How did we know each other? We met through Eddie. Is that what
we met through Eddie. So we were at a podcast together, and we were just talking about some crazy shit, per usual. And we met. We were both guests on the show, and we just kind of vibed, and we were on the same shit, and exchanged info.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That'll probably never see the light of day because those podcasts were.
Yeah, they were gone.
Fucking Eddie.
Deleted files.
How do you know him?
So, my ex, started this group on Facebook.
Okay.
And it was, a group where people just posted fucked up shit, memes and just when I say fucked up, I don't mean, I think people have different thresholds for, humor. Yeah. This is, dark shit.
Oh.
Funny but fucking dark. Holocaust jokes and shit like that, or, dead babies or things things that normal people would probably not be okay with.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was this whole group, and we were all in there, and one of the people that we found, named Eddie, he was in the group, right? So I met him through that, and then eventually he worked at a company we were at, we all worked the same, and then we just kind of kept in touch.
Okay.
We do, meet and greets on the group, so, people in the group, we would go out every few months and meet each other to see the faces behind you.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, and then we met Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. That's how we met.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that you've done several podcasts. I don't know, are you a personality of entertainment and intellectual conversation in like the digisphere, or do you just kind of one-offs here and there and you just like doing it, or?
So the thing is like, one of the things that I really enjoy is having like intellectual conversations where there's no judgment, like there's just like talk about shit that's fucking like interesting. Hey, cold day we're having, isn't it? Like, it gets boring. Like, it's so exhausting just being like, or it's wine 30, or like stupid shit. Like come on, dude. Like, you have to be more deep than that, right? So I always enjoy it, and everyone that knows me knows, like, almost to a fault, that is who I am. Like, I will turn any conversation into like a fucking, just like a thing. And they're like, God, can't we just talk about fucking this and this? And I'm like, no, like, because sorry, like, it's gonna turn into aliens or fucking porn. Like, there's no in between. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if you start with, you went to your grandma's house, like, we are forking into one of those things.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's porn.
I like that.
But no, we fucking, and I enjoy having those. And so people that know me know that that's my thing. I like, I pride myself on, like, some really offensive memes and things like that. I like to push that boundary. But I also like to have intellectual conversations with people like you who just, like, understand that we're fucking people on a rock, and, like, it's really, like, everything's not as simple as, like, clocking in and out every day.
Yeah, that's true. But beyond that, you are an artist. You are a published artist, too. Like,
yeah. So I do music. I actually have an album coming out this year. I'm not quite sure on the name, but I've just been going through therapy and stuff like that, and they tell you, like, do things that you love to do, like, to be happy again type of thing. So gonna make another album, gonna get that done.
Sticking with the same artist name, or you just do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then I'm also, like, writing a romantic comedy, like a movie.
Nice.
So mainly because it's the cheapest to make, but
that's an interesting reason to do it.
I love movies. Like, I know eventually I want to make movies too, but like it's the cheapest to make.
Like direct or just
writer, right, and just see where it goes. If I act in it, cool. If I find some like handsome, like better looking.
Do you have like a theater or some kind of background? Have you?
I've just always been like that guy.
Just a funny, interesting, silly, but. You're a very dramatic person. You're very present, so you have that ability to just kind of like, I don't know, be serious, be reverent, be funny, be fucked up, you can embody a lot of things.
I just like that, and I think it comes from watching a bunch of movies. Like, you realize, like, there are so many different situations, and like, I watch life, and I feel like I just watch movie scenes, like. In life, I'm like, oh, that'd be so fucking cool if this happened, or something like that. Or like, I'll do something, I'll be like, oh, it's almost like a scene from a movie, right? But yeah, I just like having my dick in a bunch of different holes, dude. Like, honestly, if it's art, like, I'm fucking in it, dude. Like, I like to make music, I like to watch movies, I like to eventually make movies, like, I like to just have deep conversations, and like Frank Reynolds says, like, I like to bang whores. Like, just like to... Just a typical American guy.
Well, where can they find you?
Dude, so I'm on Instagram is probably where I'm the most active. So it's at the real zillz. So that's going to be the real and then ZILLZ. That's pretty uniform throughout all my platforms. Snapchat, which I'm less. Twitter, and then Facebook. If you know me personally, you can request me as well, and like we can just talk about some shit. But yeah, mainly active on Insta. I know I post a lot of like just like dumb shit, but like I have conversations like
you're
this
the king of
all the time.
selfies.
I like to think so, man. I have really low self-esteem when it comes to like my appearance. So I just try to like I said before I got here, I was playing basketball, trying to like get back in shape and try to like look better so I feel better. But like I feel like if my outside matched my inside, like I would look like fucking Jason Momoa. But it doesn't, so I have to like make the outside more presentable so that people look at the inside.
And you get tracks on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just under zillz, right?
Yeah, under zillz, ZILLZ. And if you're into like kind of like rap or like pop and things like that, like that's kind of what that last album was. This next one's gonna be focused more on like experimental. So like I'm just gonna do like a bunch of shit that I like to do.
Like Billie Eilish stuff, it's just gonna kind of do anything. It's gonna
Yeah.
have all sorts of drops and sounds
Yeah.
and shifts and.
Or I feel like people like nowadays like they just write albums and it's like it's a rap album, so every song has to be rap or everything has to be rock. Like, dude, I was looking at punk rock beats, like Blink-182 type shit. Like, I was gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna have a hard-ass trap beat. Like, another one I might have, like, a soulful, like, kind of boom-bap type thing. Another one might be lo-fi. Like, this album is gonna be such a different... It's gonna be, like...
That's awesome.
Like trans-genre. Like, it's just... I'm just gonna be putting the music that I want to fucking do at whatever time I want to do it, and then just putting it on an album.
So good.
So...
Do you know about when that'll be coming out? Ish?
Looking towards maybe like November, December-ish.
Okay.
Because there's just a lot that has to go into it, but
yeah, putting on an album is a nightmare. By the way, if you guys want to know,
it's a lot of work.
Producers and hurry up and wait, and
like BMI and like all that other shit too, and like just making sure like you own everything, and then like it's a very single, it's a very like single heavy industry right now. So like finding the right single to push to then funnel, and it's a whole thing.
Nightmare.
But
well, thanks for hanging out, dude. I really appreciate you like making the time.
Yeah, I love it.
Being your awesome self on my podcast.
Oh, dude, I fucking love it. Anytime I can come back in, like, this is fun.
We will end of the year. I'll bring you back in when the album comes out. We'll have a chat and we'll promote it.
Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, I really appreciate it, dude.
Right on, brother.
Hell yeah.